What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the American podcast, where our diversity is our culture. Today we have very special guest, very close to my heart here. Today we have Danny from Time to Rock, not Tiger Rock. And then we also have Optic from Rock So Fresh. I call him Aaron, but everyone knows him as Optic. And then we have Saul, Drah Hard is what people know him as, and he still rocks the almighty Playskool crew. So welcome. This is the crew, second generation Playskook Society. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Yo, what's up?
Yo, welcome.
Good morning from San Diego.
Yeah.
Good morning from Washington State.
Good morning. Buenos días. Aquí. Buenas tardes de España. Or out here in Spain. Spain.
Spain.
Spain.
Oh yeah, there we go. This is the family right here. A lot of us got in on one specific. Me, Saul, Aaron, and Richard. There was a time when we got into Playskool. I'm gonna guess the date was
94. 3?
No way. I'm gonna say 92 even.
92 because we were still in ninth grade.
Grade, yeah.
Oh.
And Julian was in there too that day.
Julie was there, right. So in 92, we could play this like let's do this. Okay, Saul, can you remind me how or what crews we were in first before Playskool?
So we named ourselves I think we named ourselves X-Men, didn't we?
Yeah, ninth grade.
Yeah.
Ninth grade. Yeah.
I don't know how we got hooked up with Playskool. I know there was was it Louis' cousin?
I believe so at the time. So we were X-Men. We started breakdancing. Well, I guess we'll even go as far as like want to see like where everyone came from. So before we even start that, let's go way back.
All
right. What is your history in dancing?
Mine?
Yeah.
So me and Aaron go way back in time to
1950s, I think.
early 80s, so like 84.
Right.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Garbage Pail Kids were like in, and breakdancing was like the thing. Like breaking was like everyone had cardboard. We were all just outside at the Navy housing, just rocking out to Herbie Hancock. And
fast forward to the 90s.
So fast forward to the 90s, it came back, but it came back as housing. Like all the kids were like saying, yeah, you could house because you knew how to break. And I'm like, what's that? What's housing?
Exactly. What's housing? What's grooving?
I'm still like, what's housing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to say
everybody.
Oh, I figured it out. So late 80s, when like Jungle Brothers, they introduced house music to hip hop. So they had that house beat. So a lot of in New York and Chicago, people were like dancing house to, hip hop, but with a house beat. So when hip hop, I believe in the West Coast was catching on what they were doing in the East Coast, they're like, oh, we're housing. Which
Everybody said like, hey, you got, Kid and Play, the movie Kid and Play and all that dancing, that's housing. That's
right.
Yeah, house party, I guess, maybe.
House party, yeah. Because in my head, living in that time frame, I remember people saying housing, and I remember it being something where people were taking some of the hip hop dancing, right?
Yeah.
Some of the hip hop dancing and like being in a format where you kind of performed it and with different music and with some like acrobatic moves as well. Like we're talking about like the Donkey Kongs, the atomic drops, the daisy kicks. I think in my head again, who knows if this is right, but this is how I'm seeing it as a kid, that how this housing thing started happening. And then I see the progression at that point is like there was the housing and then the grooving started coming in. Do you guys remember that grooving part coming in?
Mm-hmm.
For the beat?
Yeah. Well, like now I would think it would be classified like that was that New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
But we didn't call it New Jack Swing back then because I don't know when that terminology came about or where, but to us it was housing. But then now when people say, oh, do that New Jack Swing. It's the RoboCop, the Kid and Play, the Running Man. It's the things we thought of as that kind of led up to housing. And then the grooving was from like the Wrecking Shop and a lot of that stuff that happened. Some of those videos that were around where the grooving, which was totally like a different energy kind of, that was a different dance I think, but it kind of mixed all together back then, because then we would do, you'd see somebody doing like some New Jack Swing, and then they do some daisy kicks, and then they do a double daisy and maybe do a windmill, and that was their set. So,
Yeah. And what was real important to me to capture is the crews at that time. So if we could just like name off some of the crews that we saw and, kind of gained our respect or, really made an impression on us, I'm going to say like G Bros was something really big that was out there that we see, but they were specific to like grooving, right? And so they made an impression on me just because, like, I don't know, at that time, since we were so young, we were very impressionable, but at the same time, this hip hop thing was really moving and really like, I don't know, again, making an impression on me and making me want to dance. So in 92, I guess this is when we started dancing. I'll tell a quick story. Me and a buddy, Andrew Chin of mine, where we would always play video games at the liquor store. And so, the courtesy is when you want to play next, you put a quarter up on the cabinet to play. And the two kids would always come in, and we hated these two kids because instead of putting one quarter up, they would put like 20 quarters. And so that really meant like me and Andrew couldn't play, because essentially what we would do is whoever would come and play, we'd beat them, kick them off, and then I would be able to get back on, or Andrew would be able to get back on. But when you put 20 up, we can't get on for a long time. These kids, who are these kids that keep doing this? Jerks, right? They ended up being Aaron and Saul. But anyway, we found out they used to break dance. And so for some reason, me and Andrew, we wanted to learn how to windmill. So next door to us was a laundromat. There was a laundromat next door, and we said, well, first off, we were like, well, prove it. Like, this is all hearsay. We want to see it. And so they went next door and kind of just blew our mind on what. We're like, oh my God. And I don't know. It was interesting too that you guys haven't done it for a bunch of years and you still did it so
it's like riding a bike.
Is that right?
Yeah. For us, when did you stop, Saul? Like 86?
I was the last kid on the block, like 87. Everyone was doing like BMX and doing the hip hop choreography stuff.
Right. Yeah, I got into skating about 86, and we were still practicing like windmills in the back, right in the back patio. But it was like, we're done. So about 87, 88.
Yeah, because no one around us was breaking. There weren't any competitions, so it was just us, just having fun and by ourselves.
Right.
So that was probably like 4 years afterwards.
4 years removed, and then you're in the laundromat showing two kids how to break dance. It was amazing. Anyway, for my story, anyway, that's how it then kicked off. And then, again, we end up going to Taft Middle School. I meet Saul, and then we start this crew called X-Men. Yeah. And the members of X-Men, if I remember correctly, it was Antoine Averb from No Soul, you, me,
Marvin.
Marvin Abbott. What's up, Marvin? Yeah. And maybe that was 5 of us, right?
Yeah.
And so at that time,
Cheryl was in there too.
Who was that?
Cheryl was in there too.
Cheryl Valenzuela.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even remember that. Again, these stories from 30 years ago.
Well, because we performed in the library as X-Men, and we had a routine, and Cheryl was in it too. So
X-Men, yes. And so in 92, we are getting
you're getting recognition.
We are getting recognition for these kids coming out of Sarah Mesa that know how to dance. And so we're meeting different people, different groups, and kind of like a gang. Once people find out about you, they want you in. They want you to be a part of this growing group. And I know that Richard went to middle school, I believe, with people from Playskool. I think Louie and them. And then I had some like fake cousins from like World Peace that I remember I was trying to push World Peace at one point. And then we were trying to like, and then there were other people like that had crews that said we should join this crew. And I know at that time we were like going, who do we join and what do we do? It was very interesting time. Like it felt good. Like someone wanted us to be part of their crew, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we ultimately decided in 92 to go with Playskool. I think because we heard there was 40 people. I don't know if that was ever right, but then they were very close. They were in Murphy Canyon. We were in Serra Mesa, and about 2 miles away, 3 miles away was Murphy Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day we walked to Murphy Canyon. Me, Saul, Aaron.
I came late.
Oh, okay. So yeah, who came with us? Was Saul?
It was me, you, Richard, and Julian.
And just 4 of us. Okay, 4 of us trek all the way down Arrow Drive and go up to Murphy Canyon to Alan's house. From what I remember, we're supposed to battle them. How do you remember it, Saul, after that?
I remember meeting at Alan's house and a bunch of people already there, and they had linoleum on the grass, and they were all like huddled down near the linoleum. And I was super intimidated. I was looking at everybody like, oh man, what is gonna happen? Are we gonna have like a serious battle or what? You know? And what happened was we looked at them and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? What do you want to do? Do you want to battle or what? And I think Chad might have said like, just show us what you got. Let's just practice. So that's what we did. We were practicing and they were like assessing us and we're like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen. Are we gonna get in? Are we gonna get down or what? But like later on, Optic comes down with his skateboard and he just got his hair done by his girlfriend. It was like painted with like blue paint, like acrylic paint or something. And it was all tied up like crisscross or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he came rolling in. I think his hat either said punk rock or outcast or something like that with like the iron on letters.
It was Outcast.
Yeah. And he had like his army surplus cut off shorts and he was ready to get down. But I don't remember I'm sure Aaron busted too, and he was like,
I showed up and
checking it out.
Everyone was done and tired, and I showed up like you guys got there like at 12, and I got there like at 4, and skated there, and I just remember them laughing at me. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? This guy, like thermal, like street punk looking kid, and they're just like, all right, let's see what you got. So I just started besting flare, windmills, swipes, and they're just like, oh, all right. Never mind this guy. They're like, fuck. Never mind this guy.
You're in.
You're in. Because they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
This guy.
So
cool.
yeah, 30, again, since it's 2022, like 30 years earlier, memory is really hard. But because what I remember is going there and there were like the younger brothers there. And so we're like, where's everyone at? Where's these people? And I remember them like not coming out. And so we just practiced. That's what I remember, Saul. I don't know who knows what's right, but I remember
right.
no one really out there, like, you know, Eddie, Alan, Louie, no one was out there. Matter of fact, I don't even know if Chad was there. I just know that they were kind of inside spectating us, like when we were just practicing. And then so we're just practicing at that point. And by the time they come out, they just really just say, all right, you guys are in. Like there was no battling. There was no we were actually stressing for nothing because there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of stress walking to Murphy Canyon. It was like, how are we going to do it? What moves are going to do? We're really like trying to plan things out. But by the time we get there, it ends up being like a practice session and then really just us getting into Playskool without any.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You guys left. I just remember you guys talking, saying, "Hey, we're gonna get in this crew." I'm like, I don't know about that. We should just start our own. Like, why do we have to join a crew? Just make our own, you know?
Right.
So I'm like, oh, whatever you guys want. And I wasn't even in the X-Men, right? And I was just kind of like the older brother, like, okay, I'll follow you guys.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what this is about. Because you guys were going somewhere like junior high to like, I was like, fuck, like, these guys are gonna get into like a fight club or something. Gang. So I went over there.
That's why we just hours later.
We discussed this because we wanted to get in to get reputation, and we were thinking because we're going to be in a known crew, they were probably going to be good, and then they were going to teach us.
Yeah, and they were better
to teach us.
Well, I'm going to say they had a lot of experience.
Well, to be fair, they were a different generation. They were like groovers and housers, right? And this is right when teeter-tottered more towards breaking. So they heard of us. So we went there and we were just B-boys, and they're just like, oh, okay, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And back then it was dancing where we battled, like, oh, this guy's windmill, you send him. If this guy's grooving, you send him. If this guy does all aerials, then you send him. So they saw us as like, okay, now we have the B-boys in our crew.
Yeah. So good for them for recognizing what they needed, right? But at that time too, we were really on the come up. It was a very exciting time for us. In that time, I remember too, as a kid. I mean, even beyond that.
So when did Danny got in?
Danny got in, I'm gonna say like within a year's time. Danny, do you remember when you got in? What year and stuff?
I think. Yeah, you guys were in 10th grade. It's right before you guys all came to Sarah High.
Okay.
I think it was before. I'm not quite sure. But I knew Eddie and all of them through Phil was our conduit into Playskool. But we knew a Playskool like when I was in 8th grade. Colin was he was a year ahead of me, and he was at Sarah, and he would come back. And when we started, I got really into New Jack Swing and dancing. And then me and Colin, I don't know how, or why, we were like, this is what we're going to do. I mean, I know as I always had a lot of energy and I liked music. And so, Colin was a drummer. But I remember him telling me about there's crews at Sarah, there's this Playskook Society and they all dance. And so I was like, I had it all imagined in my head before I even saw any of it. I just kind of and then we used to watch Beat Street and Breaking and Breaking 2. And we had an edited version of them where we made all the battles and dance things. And that's kind of how we were learning, was just by watching in slow motion over and over and over these little parts of Beat Street, right, all the parts of Breaking and Breaking 2. And then I think MTV, Rocksteady was on the grind around that same time, and they had this that we got that on record, recorded that too, and so we watched that. We're like, oh. And then when I went to Sarah, I think it was 92, 93 or so, right around there. It was about a year. I was still not in the crew, but I remember seeing Eddie and Alan and them, and I thought these guys are the coolest people I've ever seen in my life. It's just when I remember watching them, it was some little scrub.
Oh, Jico clothes.
And I'd watch, Jico clothes, and Alan always had his brim, you couldn't even see his face. It was always like this, and he was always like that, and I remember I would sit up kind of front, and I'd watch as they walk by, and I'd be like, oh man, those guys are so cool. I want to be, I was totally, I was totally but I didn't really know them until later. I remember it was just funny because I was thinking about this, and I remember a battle I did in 9th grade against some guy at the Murphy Canyon Rec. And it was I was so hyped to battle this guy. I can't remember his name. And Phil was right when I first met Phil, and Phil and Colin went, and we battled probably 3 rounds, and the guy was really bad, but I was it hyped me up. I was like, oh, I did my first battle. I was so happy. I was like, yeah, I did it. And then eventually Phil got into Playskool, and he kind of brought us with him we battled in at the Kearney Rec. I think you guys are probably in 11th grade. That's probably when you guys came to Sarah.
I think you guys battled at Sarah Mesa Rec.
Sarah Mesa Rec or Kearney? Yeah. I can't remember. It was a party. There was a big party there.
Yeah, I was at the Sarah Mesa Rec.
Oh, that Sarah Mesa Rec party. I remember that was...
Yeah, the one where a lot went down. It was pretty crazy.
We got to see you do flares. I was impressed. You did some flare. Colin did some flares. I was like, dude, these guys are good. We're getting these guys good.
I had a flare. I had a flare, windmill headspin. That was my ultimate combo.
Right.
And I think I hit it in the battle. All I know is I did that one right. Phil was battling me in, but afterwards, he's so you did it, and
he was already on our side. He was on the Playskool.
Yeah, he was. Well, I was battling him, but he kind of danced with us the most because we were in Terrasana all together.
Yeah.
So, and he got in from Sarah. He came up from Spring Valley, and he already had a crew with like Junior and Alan and a lot of Junior and Alan were his main two guys, but there was a bunch. H2O. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was in, and so when he met those guys, like, so he was already in the crew and he was a good groover and he could break some too. And then he had the 90s. He was, you know, like to me, when I think of Phil, he could hit the 90s from like, he did the back handspring ones into the 90s. Like I still don't see people doing that stuff. So
yeah.
And then he was a good dancer, popper, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
You are a popper too.
Hey, I'm curious when you're getting battled in there. What is your feeling, or what do you remember about that battle?
I remember just being like super excited for the chance, and then just also like it's not even like the night of. It's like that whole week knowing like I'm gonna go do this, like, and I'm how. You play out like a million battles before the battle because you're in that age where you're daydreaming about the stuff all day. Yeah. And you practice. We're practicing like probably 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day back then. And
were you getting ready for someone in particular? Were you getting ready to like do a round against Saul or Aaron or?
Well, I didn't know you guys as well. I don't remember knowing. You guys were kind of more strangers to me. Like I didn't know what you guys were capable of. And so I was kind of like, yeah, I heard a lot about you guys. And I think you guys came up to Sarah one day and I kind of barely met you guys, but I was, intimidated, of course. And, we always, I was intimidated, and I just remember like just trying to hit that one combo. I don't know what else I did, but I knew if I could hit my flare, windmill, head spin, it was a wrap. Like I just thought in my mind, if I do that, I got it. And then I'm pretty sure, I remember that I did it and I was like hyped. I can't remember anything else I did in the battle. I remember more about the like party because I almost got beat up by a big dude. I remember there was a lot of violence. Yeah, there was a lot of fights, and like this real big cholo dude like picked me up off the ground, like I was a little skinny kid. And I remember there was a lot of Playskool there, and just seeing everybody all at once is kind of like it was a shock to the system. And I hadn't been to a lot of like parties like that at that age. That was probably ninth grade, 10th grade. So it was like this rec party, and I hadn't been to a lot of those coming out of Terrasana. That wasn't like a thing. Maybe house parties, but that was different. Yeah. So the whole thing, I was just super hype and overwhelmed, and like
I would love to see that. I know it doesn't exist, but I would have loved to see footage. I would love to see who went after you hit that combo. I would have thought I went out or something like that, or maybe saw.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we just looked at each other like, you guys are good.
Right. Okay, so I have another story that I wanted to share, just like the same night we got into Playskool. So that night, again, that day was very exhausting. We had to walk all that far. It must have been a Friday or a Saturday. And so that night, we were finally in this crew, Playskool, we're all done. And then they say, we're going to go to the distilleries. Oh, yeah. Okay. What's that? Okay, it's this club that we're going to go to. So they're all right. The car pulls up and it's this Beamer. And I noticed there's 12 of us. Okay, there's a 2-car Beamer that just pulled up. Who's going? And Eddie's like, we're all going. What do you mean we're all going? With one car? And so what happens, they pack in like, I don't know how many people. I guess if we did the math, 12 minus 3, because 3 of us, me, Saul, and Julian, end up in the trunk of a Beamer to go to the distilleries.
Yeah, I took off. I was like, I'm gonna go skate.
Aaron's smart at this time because Aaron's older than us, at this point,
right.
13, 14 years old. So yeah, he's smart. So we end up going to the distilleries, but it really blew my mind. I know the older guys, like Alan
and distilleries from Terrasana is like what, 27 miles or something?
Yeah, it was like 40 minutes,
Yeah.
So it took a while. So in the trunk, obviously, that was an experience on its own. But we get to the distilleries, and I am so nervous. I'm like more nervous about going into distilleries than I was going to the battle. But I'm happy. Like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. We hear about the distilleries. We hear it on Z90. We hear it on the radio.
18 up club, and these guys are like what, 15?
Not
Yeah.
even.
We were like 13, 14, 15,
Yeah.
and it was like a 16 and up club or something. We're like, how are we gonna get in? And he's like, we're just gonna dress you up. So they put us on like baggy ass like cross colors and try to disguise us.
Put a mustache on you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Get on my shoulders.
Yeah, and the guys are walking. Me and Saul are in the back, and we're nervous because we're walking to a place with all these grown people. Like you walk, it's this huge building, and then you see like
Yeah.
girls lying on the left, the guys lying on the right, these long lines. And we're like, what is happening? And then we just walk right in the middle. We get treated like VIP, and we walk in, and then it's amazing. It's like
Yeah.
Disneyland.
It's Roxy's. San
Yeah.
Diego's Roxy's of New York.
Seriously,
This sound system in there was hitting. Like
Right.
I remember that sound system. You'd feel it right when you got in, like
In
in
your
your chest.
Yeah.
They were trying to be like, "This place is great, huh?"
I'm blaming some of my deafness for those times.
Yeah.
That was great times. The distilleries, it was amazing. It was
I know. I don't think I mean, I didn't go with you guys that time, but I did take the trunk ride to distilleries. I think probably with Nelsone, and I can't remember who else.
well, Colin
May
was the driver, right?
when Colin had his car like out of all of us pretty early on.
Yeah,
And so I think I went one time and did it that way. But I mean, riding in the trunk or in the back of like Richard's bed on the freeway. Remember, he didn't even have the tail. He didn't even have the
Gate.
the door, the back gate. And we'd be on the
didn't have the back
freeway.
gate. It was
We
open.
didn't have the back gate. And we laid down on the freeway. I remember on the 15. It wasn't far. It was only probably from Claremont Mesa to Arrow.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I remember cars coming behind us, and we were like laying down and we're like waving out.
It's crazy to think some of the crazy stuff that we did, because there's no way in the world we would let our kids do anything like that, but we were doing it. It was so
We didn't ask.
right. Oh my god. Saul, do you remember growing up? Like, was there a rival crew that we used to really go at it with?
Of course, number one rival crew would have been Dark Side, and they were coming from Mira Mesa, National City. They were like a mega crew in my head. Like
Yeah.
they were like, they were like the Dark Side. We were Playskool, they were the Dark Side, and like every time we came up to them on the scene, we were battling. And they all were like preppy, cute looking, like Tommy Hilfiger wearing,
Mhm.
tippies, I guess, but they're B-boys.
Saul, you say tippies, and probably no one knows
Yeah.
what that is, but tippies back then, we called people that look like the typical Filipino guys, which I don't know if we ever were end up being like that, because you had Aaron with blue hair, and everyone looked a little different, but the typical Filipino guys looked a certain way, right? So that's what Saul's referencing is those tippies. But I do remember another story about Dark Side specifically. Danny, do you remember the story about calling the news radio, the news station?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no, radio.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
So
Me and Matt, we realized we had a fax.
right?
Yeah, it was a rival crew, and what we realized is, Z90 was the station. We all listened to it. We all there was radio shows directed towards hip hop and graffiti and dance, and so and I realized that if I sent them a fax, I don't think I had a fax machine, but I had a fax program on my computer, that they would always read their faxes, and they would always do whatever shout outs or play our songs. Probably just because it was so direct of a way and it was different. So they were probably like not used to getting faxes, so they would. And I can't remember if it was me and Matt or somebody else, Matt Blackwell. And we would fax in that we were like from Dark Side and giving props to Playskool as the best crew. And then they read it. Yeah. And they read it out loud, like, "Oh, this is Dark Side. They want to give props out to Playskool as being the best crew, holding it down for Kearney Mesa area, Terrasana." And and they read it like I believe at least once, 2, 3 times, and we were crying. It's the funniest thing.
That would be the best recording.
Yeah, who knows if we got that recorded somewhere. That's amazing.
But that was the rivals. We were, we were always that was the main crew to do something like that. And if they heard it, they'd be like, who, what, where, how, what? But we just thought it'd be like it's so funny.
Yeah.
I gotta ask Zoom about that.
Yeah.
If he heard it.
Yeah, right. And really interesting enough, like, back then, like we don't really know how big Dark Side was, but recently finding out that like the Dark Side crew were like these Mare Mesa crews, and they kind of started expanding into other crews that were not necessarily in Dark Side, but we consider them Dark Side. So whenever we went to like say the base party, I remember the base party was a really big battle. And there was side, but then they had all their other little crews together. But they'll all kind of combine them as Dark Side. But I remember that being a huge battle.
It was like 5 against like 20 people.
Right.
that I remember that battle because it kind of stuck with me a little bit. Oh, it was one of the bigger battles, and we did this base. It was at the base party, and there was a lot of the crews there. I remember Delivery Boys being there. The first time I saw Cross and Donnie, and I remember. We were battling these guys forever. I mean, and then I remember someone joking, like, it's like their uncles and aunts and everyone. We're battling like, it's like everybody in Mare Mesa. It's not just Dark Side. And I was like, where does the crew end?
Right. And there's like 5 of us, right?
Yeah. At one point.
Oh, go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
At one point, I remember I think Michelle and Francis were there, and we all just started doing the Playskool shuffle. My memory might be off, but it was like the first time I remember seeing everybody just go Playskool and doing this Playskool shuffle in the circle. And it was really like powerful to me because it was just like, it was beyond a move that you come back from. It was just like, we're feeling ourselves.
And from what I remember too, though, like when we would do that, is like when we won a battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a celebration.
Yeah, it was like, oh shoot, we just lost. So what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say this because when Nelsone went out and did power, they would send their power move, and it was just like fast jackhammers, crickets.
Right.
But he couldn't do like combos or anything. But then we just started doing our footwork stuff, meaning Saul and I. And then I just remember this white guy was like, oh, they have style, they won. And I looked over later, I realized it was Easy Rock.
Oh, it was Easy Rock.
Easy Rock.
Yeah.
Was there.
Oh, no easy props. Hey, we got it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, those guys won right there.
Right.
They just won because of style.
I think I remember too that night, Jack and Nico jumped in for us. Again, there's 5 of us against like all of Mare Mesa, right? Yeah. And so I remember watching Jack and Nico jumping in, and they killed it.
Because they were like, they're still battling?
Yeah.
And it was like hours, like, they're still battling?
Yeah.
Jack and Nico went in, and then like, let's just finish this.
Yeah, it was just a finishing move. Yeah. It just killed it. That was amazing. Anyway, that was a battle that really stuck out in my head. Is there anything that stands out in your head, Saul or Aaron or Danny?
Well, that's afterwards. I did find out it was Subcrews, so that's where I believe I met Animaniacs.
Yeah,
and another Dark Side affiliation was what 101 or I want to say 101 Dalmatian, but it was like Animaniacs, and it was another crew.
Yeah, they had a bunch of like side crews, and that was really interesting.
C-Force? No.
C-Force, Electric Shockers?
I think Electric Shockers were on their
Electric Shocker.
They're on their own.
Okay.
They were on their own because they were from like South Bay or something like that. Like,
yeah.
They had a lot of people. C-Force, from my understanding, C-Force was like their all-star crew or something like that. They were kind of getting people, and so we had battle C-Force, and we're battling their all-star crew for hours. And so thank you.
That's where we met most of the crews right at that jam.
Yeah, thank you for the base party. Thank you, Dark Side, for pushing us. I think that was
they did.
Yeah, definitely, that was a great one. But I remember other events that really stuck out in my head when we're talking about Easy Rock, going to World Beat Center and seeing. I don't know if that's the first place we saw him, but I remember that was just a place where he really impressed me because there was no wood floors. There was like this thin carpet, and this
Mhm.
B-boy still got down on that carpet like very flawlessly. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
Yeah, World Beat Center, that was amazing. So I think that was the 18 and up place that we were in at 14.
Singing Easy Rock back then was like you couldn't comprehend it. You know, like it was like to me, I remember him doing like 390s, but in my mind it was more like 15. Like I just never seen someone do it like, and he did it effortlessly. And I think there was there was a contest at the Red Lion and maybe World War III, or I can't remember the name now, but it was where crews would battle crews and they put on an exhibition show.
Right.
And I just remember him going in the circle and just trying to capture like a memory of what he was exactly doing, because we didn't have phones, we didn't have video cameras really back then. So whatever you saw and you took away from somebody, that's all you ever had of other people. And that's how we had to learn back then. And so it's really interesting, especially now to see how it's developed where, you could go online and learn how to break from anybody. Back then, we only could learn from other people. So if you knew somebody that like, oh, he has halos, that I got to be cool with that guy because he can teach me halos and stuff like that. It's just real interesting how the scene, even to how we battled, where it was, oh, that guy got a good head spin. Get the head spin guy to go in and do the good head spin. But I think one thing about us as a crew, as opposed to a lot of those other crews at the time, we did a little bit more of the style of having everything, trying to get different things, and then also that B-boy stuff. And we still did the groovy, and we still liked that other stuff than dancing, but we kind of like had a little bit more of a complete approach to it.
Yeah, there was definitely like a foundation, right? Like, I know foundation was a big word back then, but like in our time in Playskool, whether it was the top rocks first, the floor work, and then a freeze. Like I think that was not in everyone's mentality at that point, but I know we had it and it was good. I think we got a lot of respect from a lot of those crews. I remember when like Saki and then before they were in Playskool, they really gave us a lot of respect for doing those kind of sets.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, that was probably Saul and Aaron's influence, because I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I think that's where it came from. A lot of that came from, because other than that, I mean, I remember watching these like dark side guys where they would literally battle in different walks. Like they do a crab walk and a Buddha walk, and who had the better, like all these. I mean, I don't even remember the names anymore because UFOs.
Yeah.
And
crabs, king crab.
Yeah, dark side's style. They didn't have the smooth finesse of a B-boy. What they did was they did some house moves, and then they had no transition, and they went into a power move, and that was it. And they had their shoes off.
Right.
So we didn't grow up like that. We grew up watching Beat Street, and it's like, oh, you got to dress fresh, you got to spin, you got to do the top rock footwork, freeze. And I remember we would do freezes, and I remember Danny would be like, what is that they're doing at the end? Danny couldn't figure that out till later that we were doing freezes.
Yeah. Why are they staying still? I don't understand.
right.
And we didn't Saul and I, we didn't know vocabulary. We were just mimicking, right? But it wasn't until Danny studied the dance, and then he goes, oh, you know what this move is? We're like, I don't know. You guys do it. You don't even know what it is. We're like, I don't know. We just do it. Right?
Yeah, I remember later in the 2000s, I was like, what do you call this step you do? I don't know. What about this one? I don't know. But you do it all the time. I don't know what it's called. That's that step.
So I want to go to influences. We don't have too much longer. This will be a part one. We'll try to do a second part at a later time. But influences back then, I remember like these VCR tapes were gold, and there were some that we took from the beginning that were amazing. Saul and Aaron used to have this one Rocksteady tape from New York. I'm laughing because I remember what happened to it, but originally, what was it exactly, that Rocksteady tape?
So it was Denver Breaking. So ESPN recorded a special where it was like at a big, like huge 5-story mall or whatever, and it was called Denver Breaking.
Yeah.
And Rocksteady was probably promoting their, music and their tour, and they all had like these jumpsuits that were like futuristic.
We called it. We knew it was in Denver. Saki
It's on YouTube. That's on YouTube.
the actual event, but we call it Denver Breaking. That's all we knew.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a very influential video on VHS, and it had all these other crews entering the competition, and then Rocksteady had their ultimate routine, which we totally bit off of every move that we could possibly do. But once again, we had it, and we let Nelsone borrow it, and then he had his mom's boyfriend or his mom record soap operas over it.
I tell him over.
Oh.
Well, we had gold. That's all I know is we had gold. Then it went away.
Went away. But it's on YouTube, so we still have it.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
we had the whole. It wasn't clips of it. We had the whole actual.
Yeah.
Like competition.
Yeah, the extended footage we had.
Uncut. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Danny? Is there a video from back then you remember that stood out to you?
I mean, I think before it was just those beat streets, and I mean, because there was nothing back then. There was you just didn't see it unless you saw it in person. And I mean, I remember stuff from the 80s. I remember seeing it as a kid. I tried to break, but I don't know I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 6 or 7, but I remember the energy of it I was attracted to.
I would tell for me, the video that really inspired me back then was Bboy All Stars.
I was going to say the next video is Bboy All Stars.
That's when I quit. That's when I quit because I was like, you can't do any of that stuff. That's not fun.
That was too much. That blew my mind.
To this
day, the newspaper guy. The newspaper. Oh, that was crazy.
Where
your floor
video? My guess we got it from press, but where did we get it from? Remember?
It was through Cross knows the history of that video. I'm sure of it. I think he.
In our hands. I remember a time going to Press's house to get a video. I don't know if it was that video, but that was a really good nugget right there for us.
And then of course,
didn't Bboy Summit, Bboy Battle of the Year '96?
Battle of the Year.
I remember. You guys got that. The Samaras got that.
Yeah, I got that behind the post office.
Yeah,
behind the post office.
Oh,
I mean, and that.
I think the epic history of the '90s was probably Star Billiards, because that's when you had all the whoa, who's that guy? All the DJs that we didn't know.
Strictly
DJ HOP.
Strictly,
all the rappers we didn't know, and we're like, and they're coming out.
That event was called Strictly Hip Hop.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there was a transition from like us as a high school crew, like kind of a high school based dance crew. And then also, I mean, we should speak to the fact that basically, for about 3 or 4 years, dancing died, where it's just like, it was kind of, you wouldn't see it very much. I think it was from about 96, 90, no, I'd say maybe it's 97 to 99. It was less. And then we started going more to L Street. I don't remember when we started L Street, but I remember there was a time where I got back into skateboarding. I was a senior in high school. You guys went on. And then all of a sudden, me and Saul kind of got bored again. And we're like, well, maybe let's try breaking again. Let's see what happens. And that's when we met Saki and China. And they were like, you guys are the only breakers we've seen in like a long time. So that's how we connected, was because they were surprised to see anybody breaking.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so that's another story that goes into the late 90s.
Yeah, that's
strictly hip hop.
And so at this time, I'm unfortunately gonna have to cut. I actually have a rental coming up here in a couple minutes. Thank you guys for joining our part 1 of the Playskool second generation podcast on this show is called, it's a new series called the Reminisce Show. So thank you guys, Saul, Danny, Optic. Thank you guys for being on the show, and we'll catch you guys next time for the second one.
All right.
Playskool. 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 Playskool.
Right?
Oh, Playskool.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you again for watching the American podcast, where our diversity is our culture. We'll see you next time.
Bye. See you, Danny.
Bye.
Yes, that's for life.
Oh, live.
Oh, live.